and welcome back to Code It With AI, episode 10. I'm Carl Franklin from AppVNext. That's Jeff Fritz from Microsoft. What's up?
Hey, how you doing, my friend? I've been getting inspired to make things this holiday season. We've been doing a bunch of cool things with Copilot. So I went and got my hands on a Raspberry Pi Zero, and I'm starting to write a little bit of code in C# to run on that Raspberry Pi. And I want to set up and do something creative with LEDs and music.
Like a Christmas ornament?
Or a nutcracker.
A nutcracker, wow, okay.
So, we'll see.
So, we're talking today about agents. And so, I think we need to disambiguate between LLMs, MCP servers, and agents. The LLM obviously can use an MCP server, and I think of an agent as something higher than all of that, right? The thing that you interact with that's kind of specialized to work with an LLM and MCP service. Is that
I think
right?
I think you're pretty close. That's a pretty good definition. And let's make sure we go through the 3-letter acronyms, right? LLM, the large language model. Those are the things like GPT-4, like Claude Opus, these things. And then MCP, the Model Context Protocol. We saw that over the last 2 episodes. The different tools that the LLM can call.
Right.
But the agent is that AI, that tool that can talk to the LLM and the MCP and then do actions for us, not just answer questions about various topics like a search engine, but the agent actually does things for us. And we've done a little bit of this with some of our samples that we've walked through in the previous few episodes. But let's dig a little bit deeper into agents.
Well, I got another question. So is GitHub Copilot an agent?
GitHub Copilot is a runtime that hosts agents.
But when you have it open in the CLI and you can tell it to do stuff, it can actually write code and change your code and do things. So,
so there's an agent that is available in Visual Studio Code, and also online, the online GitHub coding agent that we can interact
in the
with.
repo.
Yeah. And those are very generic. Right? You just give it a series of instructions to kind of set it up and off it goes. But we can do a little bit more with this.
So it's operating at a higher level is probably a good way to put it.
Yeah. So when we talk to the LLM, whether it's in ask mode or particularly in agent mode, we give it a series of instructions. We give it some context, some background. Hey, you are an expert at writing unit tests, and I need your help generating unit tests for my project. Let's look at this folder and generate projects unit tests for this. And that's nice. That's something that you're setting up in a prompt, but we can configure different agents that have that context, have that background, and give them some standards to work around, to work within, and move forward and interact on our behalf.
Okay, so I'm sure everybody's curious to see what you've got cooked up here.
Oh, yeah.
So what are we looking at?
All right. So let's head over here to github.com/copilot, right? This is where you can go online and you can interact directly with your code, your repositories, right here in the browser. And you can ask it questions about a specific repository, choose a model here. Very much the same thing that we have in Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code.
Yeah.
But then we can reach over into this other thing here called agents, and we can describe a coding task to work on. And we've done this with, hey, go generate some user documentation. Hey, go write a query to interact with a table in the database, things like that, right?
Yeah.
But this button over here is where I want to start getting into something interesting. Not just here, go interact in this repository, but let's select a custom agent that has that specific context, that specific behavior and series of guidelines that we want it to follow to do something for us. Now, GitHub has some documentation for us about how you can get started writing and working with these. And there's a documentation article here as well that will tell you, here's the things you can do to set it up. There's some metadata to put up in a YAML header on some Markdown. I know.
You know what? Thank God for agents, because now I can have the agents write the YAML.
Yes. Oh, it gets better, Carl. It gets better.
Okay.
So there's a couple of different fields that we can fill out here. We can specify different tools that are accessible to it. There's some tools that are automatically available with specific names that you can choose to add and include. But down here, so there's the MCP servers that are available. Here we see just a simple Markdown file that we use to describe, here's the personality and here's the tasks that the agent is going to be expected to do.
Okay.
So here, this is a test specialist. And the description for our human eyes focus on test coverage, quality, and testing best practices without modifying the production code. And then we start giving it that background. You're a testing specialist. Go ahead.
So how is this different from a system prompt?
So what this lets us do is have separate personas that are optimized for different tasks. So the system prompt can still have that overarching insight into our entire project, right? The Copilot instructions file is that typical system prompt. This will get attached as a second set of instructions after that.
Just for this agent.
Just when this agent is.
All right. So
included.
Hierarchically, you got the system prompt, which is the Copilot instructions, I think, MD, you said. And then this is a second layer under that just for this particular agent. Yep. But it's the same kind of thing. It's basically telling it what it's going to do, what its duties are, and some rules. Like I like the always include clear test descriptions and use appropriate testing patterns for the language and framework.
That's a very generic description of a test specialist for it doesn't matter what language or framework. We could get more focused on XUnit tests, right?
Sure.
Or on playwright tests. And hey, here's some of the standards I want you to follow. In fact, some folks have written some really good agent files for us. They're available in the awesome Copilot repository.
I love this thing.
And so I grabbed this one, the C# expert agent, and it has all kinds of good practices in here. I wanted to highlight this one, async programming best practices. Make sure that you follow these rules when you're generating and working with async code. And of course, you can see all of the markdown for this under that code tab. And it's 144 lines of code, but it's very clear here on all the things, not just to do, but don't do as well. So
if I'm using the GitHub Copilot CLI, can I use this system prompt?
Absolutely. So we can bring these agent markdown files into our projects and put them in the .github/agents folder.
Right.
Give it some sort of a name. The syntax is typically some task, some specific name, .agent.md.
Great.
So I went back to our project from last episode and dropped in a documentation agent that I think can help us document the MCP that we wrote in episode 9. So here's the docs expert that I wrote. And you can see it here in the GitHub agents folder up top. And I love how human readable this is, right? Very clear set of instructions, almost like you were giving a homework assignment to someone.
Sure.
So I wanted to give this access to the Microsoft documentation, to NuGet. You see those tools that are referenced up here. And the ability to noodle around inside the folders here. Search, edit, run commands, and so forth. In Visual Studio Code, you'll get this cool Configure Tools button right here when you start writing one of these files.
Okay.
When you click that, it brings down the list of various tools that you have installed that you can go and add into and reference for your agent. Now, if you're not comfortable getting started with just cracking open a markdown file and starting to write it there, we can go into our Copilot chat window here. And down here at the bottom, we can choose Configure Custom Agents, and it'll start prompting us and going through a process there.
Wow.
So we have this series of different requirements here about user documentation, API documentation, and we specify where we want those placed. We want to have guides for user guides, API reference documentation, and so forth here. So you folks out there, you can read into this a little bit by checking out the sample repository if you want to read a little bit more about what we wrote here.
I like the critical comment down at the bottom there.
Right?
You are never to make changes to the functionality of executing code. You may only add comments to a file as part of improving the documentation of that file. I love that.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's critical.
Absolutely. In an earlier draft of this agent, I started going through and telling it to generate documentation, and it started fixing nullability checks for us.
Oh, man.
That's great. I love that it did that, but that isn't what I wanted to task this agent with doing.
Right.
So let me just tell it to generate appropriate documentation for the My MCP project. And I'll make sure I choose the right agent there, my docs expert, and I'll let it run with Claude Sonnet 4 as the model that's supporting this agent.
Was Claude Sonnet 4 the one that did all that extra stuff, the nullability checks and all that? Because that sounds like a very Claude thing to do.
I had it on auto mode, so I don't know which one did it.
Oh, that's kind of weird.
Yeah. So here it is. It's analyzed the project, and now it's going to take a look at the existing guides and start generating some docs for us. Now, one thing I do want to point out while it's working here, check this out. Any diagrams that are created should use mermaid syntax so that we get nicely formatted diagrams that are rendered on GitHub for us that look really good.
Okay. But unlike Playwright, it's not going to go out, run the demo, and get screenshots and stuff.
Nope, we didn't configure and enable this agent to do that. We certainly could add those instructions and enable Playwright to do that.
And so the documents that it's creating are just documentation about using the MCP, not necessarily writing comments in the code, right?
Well, it's going to do that as well.
Really?
So it's going to update package versions in the documentation. It's going to fix episode numbering inconsistencies. I don't know where that came from. Create a deployment guide and then enhance XML documentation. So
XML documentation.
Right. The XML docs inside our files so that we get cool IntelliSense helpers for us.
Okay.
I think it's doing the episode documentation because it sees this is episode 10 repository and all the namespaces are episode 9.
So what are you looking at there?
So it's writing, this is the architecture documentation that it's writing.
Okay.
Yeah. And an architecture diagram. Yep. Neat that it's creating a deployment guide. There you go. The XML documentation comments in the code. All right. So it finished up. It went through and generated a bunch of documents here for us. Some API documentation here about exactly what was built. It's updated the JSON here in the sample so that it's pointing to episode 10 because this is the sample from episode 9 and we're episode 10 here.
You brought it into this one. Yeah.
Yep. So not bad.
Yeah.
Decent piece there. And then this architecture documentation that includes a mermaid diagram here that when we push this to GitHub will get rendered as appropriate flowchart type of diagram that we'll see on the page. So instructions with the registration, coded with AI tools, and so forth.
Can we view this as the view version, not the markdown version, not the code?
Yeah, we can look at that. Right?
Nice.
So now looks like we might have a table issue here. If I do a keep on that, that's better. So
looks good.
Yeah, not bad. And then some getting started and quick reference guides here. Nice. So it did also update and add some documentation inside the C# files.
Right.
Adding those code
XML
samples.
definition.
Yeah, and definitions for things. Now, that might be a little over the top for some projects, but to have an agent here that's specialized in this type of thing is handy and gives us a little bit of focus when we want to get this type of assistance working with the project.
Right. So how can we extrapolate this experience to something more customized that a developer might create for an agent? Like what kind of agents would a developer want to do?
Sure. So we're doing agents here primarily working with our code, right? And you may want to build agents that are specialized around, I keep coming back to testing, but maybe there's ways that you develop and build repositories, right? Different ways that you do data access. And when you want to generate data access layers, here's our standards, here's the format that we like to use, and you can push that type of thing through the agent so that you get consistent output from Copilot. Now, we can also do some things here that are very customized, highly customized for us, for this repository. So I wrote another agent out here called Podcast Author. And this one, I named Steve the intern. Okay. Because I want to be able to dictate to Steve, I need help writing my README for this repository. And here's the thing. I used this agent to generate the README that you're looking at in the sample code right now.
Okay.
So here's what we did, right? You are the producer and expert at providing sample documentation for the Code It with AI podcast. The co-hosts, Carl and Jeff, rely on you to write accurate, descriptive README content for the root of each episode repository. And some context you can rely on. Here's the YouTube playlist. Here's where sample code lives. Here's the website. Take a look at the episode 1 README for the style and structure we're expecting. And let's try to use the latest version of .NET. And then some steps to generate the README. And then our format that we typically have here.
Okay.
So
it's customized to do this particular job for us for this podcast. And that's where an agent is going to help.
Absolutely.
It's a great example because you've got business knowledge, you've got URLs that it needs to refer to. There's a whole bunch of things in that.
Now, but Carl, the README that it generated, now we don't have the YouTube video URL yet because we're recording it right now.
Right now, yeah.
But there's a bunch of related resources and links that we have down here. Some that I mentioned already. But I'd like to get some links to some blog posts about how agents are evolving from the GitHub blog. So let's ask it for a little bit of help here. So I'm going to drop back into my my chat window here, and I'm going to change agents and choose Steve the intern. And I'm going to tell it, Carl would like to see some additional references in the README for the new features of agents as described on the GitHub blog. And we'll let Steve go to work for us.
Now, Steve is totally different from your doc writing guy, right?
That's right.
Or he doesn't use them, but can you, in theory, chain these together? Could you have Steve use the doc writing agent?
Yep. So there are ways that you can have agents call other agents. You need to specify in that tools section that they're allowed to call each other.
So let's go back to big picture for a second. Mm-hmm. When I first thought about what an agent would be, I was thinking, okay, something that's going to read my emails and look for any emails from, my brother or whatever, and notify me by text wherever, because maybe I'm in the car, right? And,
sure.
The car systems don't read your email. At least I haven't seen one. I don't think I want one. But I would like an agent to just let me know, hey, your brother sent you an email.
That's right.
Or whatever. But however, that gets into, and that's a very specific thing, right? Mm-hmm. But it also brings up the security issue, because there have been attacks basically that can send an email, and when an agent reads it, if the agent has full, security clearance, admin control, it could get compromised. But
absolutely,
for that matter, you could get compromised if you pull up an email you click on something. But I think, as long as we're addressing the security issue, I can think of many agents that I would like to do.
Yeah,
I would like to have, finding airline tickets, finding hotels.
Finding airline tickets with an MCP and a little bit of playwright automation. Hey, here's the MCP for the airline, and when it finds one that it likes, fire off playwright to go log in and go buy the tickets for you.
Well, I wouldn't want it to buy the ticket. That's where I draw the line. I'd want it to send me the link to the tickets to buy, or ask me, hey, these are the options. Which one would you want? And have it buy it then. But, I wouldn't
have it navigate all the way through to the payment screen. So, okay, now give me your credit card on that screen.
Or just load up the screen for me. So I don't, I can just fill in the credit card info and it can do the rest.
So, absolutely.
I like that.
All right. So, our agent, Steve, the intern, came back, and I've beefed up the README with some hot off the press GitHub blog references that showcase the latest and greatest. These additions include Your Stack, Your Rules, flagship post about custom agents, how to write great agents. Hey, that's a good one for us to add on and reference from this episode. How to orchestrate agents using mission control, what you were describing, agents that call other agents to work together.
Right.
And then agent headquarters, a big vision announcement from GitHub Universe, and agentic security principles, another topic that
we just touched on. Yeah.
We just touched on. So it's added those to our resources here at the end of the document. I'll leave them there for our viewers to pick up and read through with the samples from this episode.
That's fantastic, Jeff.
Yeah,
well, this is a good start on down the agent path. And hey, if you've got something you'd like to see us talk about on Code It With AI, or comments or questions or anything like that, send them to Jeff and me by email at codeiwithai@appvnext.com. And who knows, maybe we'll use it on the show and give you a shout out. Hey, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Take care, friends.
Thanks for watching. Make sure to check out blazertrain.com and blazerpuzzle.com for more great content.